this the room we were in, Fred?
No, no. We were
Okay, all right, all right. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Bruin, and I would be honored to be your next U.S. Congressman. I've met some of you before, but I want to just introduce myself to you again. I'm a fifth-generation Oregonian. I am a product of Oregon public education from kindergarten through graduate school. At one of those institutions, I met my wife and my best friend. Her name is Allison, and together we are the proud parents, as Fred could tell us 100 times over, of two young daughters. Now, the oldest one is 11. And 2 weeks ago, she started graduate school, which I'm convinced is an effort from the DCCC to kill me by putting so. This is Kevin. Everybody say hi to Kevin. Kevin is videotaping this. Kevin works for an organization called the DCCC. That's the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. He's waiting for me to do some gap. Let's not have Scott do a gap tonight about that. Anyways, so that's a little bit of my background. Once again, I'm a proud husband, a proud father. I'm a businessman that knows how jobs are created, and I'm also a three-term state legislator. In the Oregon legislature, I've worked on issues from job creation to tax reform to market-based healthcare reform. As you can imagine, these experiences have helped shape who I am and who I want to be, and as your congressman, I'm honored to be your congressman. Other things that have helped shape who I am are faith. History has shaped who I am. Once again, Fred's heard this before, but I'm a big fan of history. I don't think you can know where we are or where we want to be if we don't know where we've come from. I think it's very critical, especially understanding our founding and our founding values. But there's a very practical aspect to history as well, and I want to share this with you. Let me preface this by saying that my family are big Winston Churchill fans. In fact, I believe that Winston Churchill was the greatest leader of the 20th century. My kids, once again 11 and 8 years old, are also Winston Churchill fans. And the reason they are is because my legislative newsletter, every time we do a newsletter, we put quotes from Churchill in there. So, let me give you the background. This is toward the end of the school year last year, June, and you can see I wore my hair kind of short. My oldest daughter, her name is Natalie, very thick, full, beautiful hair, but it was big and long. And so, a couple of weeks, I would say, before the end of the school year in June, took her in on a Sunday to get her haircut with me, and we got it much shorter and much thinner. It was absolutely beautiful. Well, she goes to school the next Monday, and one of the boys that she's always, in fact, still kind of likes, his name is Connor, he teases her all day long to the point where she got off the bus that afternoon from school in tears. And of course, those of you who are parents and grandparents know how hard that is to see your kid being made fun of because of essentially the way they look. So we're at the dinner table that night, and she feels bad, and of course mom and dad want to make her feel better. Well, in the course of dinner, just having a conversation around the table, an old Winston Churchill quote comes up, and it gets her laughing. Let me tell you what the quote was, or the situation. So Winston Churchill is at a black tie event in the 1930s. This is, London, upper crust society, all of that, big la-di-da crowd. And he was, as he often was, intoxicated. So one of the ladies at this event, in fact, they called her Lady Astor. She actually calls Winston out publicly, and this is a big group, about 100 people, big group, and she says, "Winston, you are drunk." To which Winston Churchill replied without any hesitation, "I am drunk. Tomorrow I will be sober. You will still be ugly." So, I don't write these things. So no, I don't mean to offend anybody. So anyways, we tell her that story again, and she's laughing. So on her own, this is what she does. The next day, so that's Tuesday, she goes back to school, and on her own, this is what she did when that same little boy teased her. She said to him, "My hair is short, it will grow back, you will still be a dork." So, I tell you, there's a practical value to history. I'll finish talking about me, but something else that has shaped who I am and who I would be as a member of Congress is disease. As my wife likes to joke, I'm the healthiest unhealthy person she's ever met. I've had diabetes since I was a young boy, insulin-dependent diabetes. I have rheumatoid arthritis, as bad as you can get it, and in fact, without modern medicines, I'd be in a wheelchair. And I am a cancer survivor. And any of you that has chronic disease, and all of you either have it or have family members or friends that have chronic disease, know that it changes you, and sometimes for the better. There was somebody who wrote years ago that through disease, he had learned much which life could never have taught him in any other way. And for me, that's absolutely true. For me, it's taught me discipline and resolve and perseverance and humility. And these are all qualities that I think are sorely lacking in Congress right now. I'm running for Congress because I'm a lot like you, and that's why you're here. We love our home, we love our country. I'm running for Congress because I absolutely believe in America, and I have absolute confidence for our nation's future, and you should too. We are a great nation with great corrective ability. Every challenge that's been put in front of our country in the past, we have found a way to resolve, and the spirit and the strength and the intelligence of the American people to resolve. So we absolutely should and have to be optimistic about our future. In fact, I wouldn't be in this race if I wasn't optimistic about our future. But with that optimism must come a clear-headed understanding of the great problems and the great challenges that we face right now. Did you know that this year, for the first time since 1974, Congress hasn't even passed a budget, and in fact is not going to pass a budget? They told us this, Denny Stewart, not going to pass a budget until after the November election because they don't want us to see the red ink. Why not? Because the reality is absolutely staggering. Our national debt is $13 trillion and growing. Our annual deficits are between $1.4 and $1.5 billion, 10% of our economy. Our daily deficits are over $4 billion a day. Actually, $4.1 billion per day is our daily deficit. That's how much we spend every day, more than we take in as a nation. Federal spending at this point is 25% of our gross domestic product. This is the highest level since World War II. Ladies and gentlemen, some of you had grandparents that were in that war. 15 million Americans were conscripted to fight wars in multiple continents to save Western civilization and democracy. We spent as much then as we're spending now. And what are we battling now? At the same time, well, let me just stop right there and say something that I find really striking. U.S. News and World Report, of all things, calls this government the most fiscally irresponsible government in U.S. history. At the same time all this is going on, we continue to suffer under one of the most anemic economies in our nation's history, certainly the worst economy of my lifetime. Oregonians want to work, but for too many of us and our friends and our families and our neighbors, those opportunities simply don't exist. One out of five of Oregon's workforce today is either unemployed or radically underemployed. So either people are out of work or they're working for far less hours than they're qualified and wanting to work. When you consider the job lock aspects, that means people that have jobs right now but are too afraid to move because there's just no opportunities out there, it's much, much higher than 1/5. Horrible situation we're in. Congress promised us resolution to that by this $1 trillion top-down stimulus program. It said this is what's going to create the jobs, and in fact, this 2010 was going to be the summer of recovery. Well, I'm here to remind you, if you didn't look at your calendar yesterday, that yesterday was the last day of summer. I guess we're still waiting for, maybe it's the fall of recovery. I'm not sure what the case may be. Ladies and gentlemen, it boils down to this. You've got out-of-control spending, you've got bad economic policies, and the list goes on and on. I don't want to belabor this, but you talk about cap and trade that would just absolutely destroy our energy economy, destroy American jobs. You talk about the health care program, which, let me disabuse you of any notion that it actually had anything to do with health care. It has everything to do with the size and the scope of government. You can talk about the regulatory state. You can talk about the bailouts that have now been enshrined with recent financial regulatory reform bills. The list goes on and on. And it boils down to this. What's going on here? These are all policies, but what's going on? You've got a Congress and you've got an administration that believes in confiscatory and redistributive tax policies. You've got a Congress and administration that believes in the ever-growing size of the bureaucratic regulatory state to the point where it just stupefies ordinary Americans. You've got a Congress and administration that time after time after time capitulates to special interests. And you've got a Congress and administration that's doing everything possible to grow the size and the scope of government. When I mean size, I mean not the physical size, I mean the money and everything else, but also the power. Power and money comes from us and it goes to them. Power doesn't exist in a vacuum. If you